Day 2. Sometimes I ask myself, why am I here? Why are any of us here? This is a question that's as old as the dawn of humanity. And because it has yet to be answered, I believe it creates the need for places like the Vatican. To be honest, I'm very impressed with this town. It is a sovereign town that is the headquarters of over 1.2 billion souls. What other nation can say that? There is definitely great power here. The Pope has his own currency, his own flag. He is the muscle and face of organized religion, if you will. This town takes its place with all other nations in the world. And just like all other nations, they too have scandal. Like all other nations, they too have corruption. What I discovered here would make you lose hope in those we choose to put our very faith in. Sometimes too much power corrupts the soul. And sometimes the soul is manipulated to put its trust in a corrupted faith. Political power has nothing on spiritual power. A president may have power over a bomb, but a pope has power over the brain. Governments may shape public policy, but it's religion that shapes the very soul. This is what I discovered with the meeting up of my friend. Thomas and I go way back. We grew up in the same neighborhood and consider ourselves family. His mother would have him stay over almost all the time because she worked late shifts. My mother took Thomas in as one of her own. She loved Thomas. He always had this yearning for a higher truth. There were times we used to sit and just have philosophical discussions about life. I always thought he was an old soul, for he talked as if he lived 1,000 lives. He always wanted to know if God exists. This was a question that would keep him up at night. He even forced me to ponder on it with him. I never cared too much for the answer. I just loved listening to his reasoning. We would continue these conversations all the way up to high school, but after graduation, we went our separate ways. He went to seminary school to study theology, and I enlisted in the service, of course. I'm very proud of his accomplishments, though. Although I don't care much for religion, I know how much this means to him. So seeing my buddy go from humble beginnings to being promoted as cardinal is a beautiful thing. I never saw any value in the church, but if the church is to exist, it needs more people like Thomas. He is a man with great character. I have to admit, though, I was a little nervous meeting him. It's been so long. He invited me over for tea Saturday morning. I can just envision the walk that I had towards his house. My entire walk to his house was one of total anticipation. As I walked up his steps, it was as if every step carried a memory that flashed through my head. When I got to the door, I paused to collect myself and then gave it 4 powerful knocks. Red? Oh my word, good to see you, man. It's good to see you too, Thomas. And who is this beautiful baby you brought with you? My daughter. Her name is Radiat. Well, let's get you both inside quick. It's cold out. He showed me into the living room where I took Radiat out of the stroller and placed her carefully on the couch. Thomas put some pillows around her to protect her from falling off. We then went into the kitchen while she slept and had some tea. Gosh, it's been so long, Red. I can hardly recognize you. I guess that's what the service does to you, huh? I giggled and said, well, you still look the same. Maybe the church life is where it's at, huh? Thomas and I laughed. It felt like the good old days, as if we were in my mother's kitchen. I guess with true friends, time is never lost, only paused. Congratulations on being a father, Red. I'm guessing this is recent since she looks only a few months, no? Yes, it is. Where's your wife? Oh, I'm not married. Oh, where's her mother? She died in the delivery room. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. Look, you didn't have to come all this way to see me. If I would have known that, I would understand you not coming. No, it's fine, brother. I've learned not to wallow in the past. Remember, like we used to say, stay in the present, right? That's the only place where one truly finds peace. Yesterday is forever dead and tomorrow is forever unborn. So it's the present that only matters, right? I have a beautiful, healthy baby girl, and we are going to live as Adonic would want us to live. That's very profound of you, Red. I always admired your ability of endurance and perseverance. Yeah, thanks, buddy. But anyways, enough about me. Congratulations on your promotion. The church couldn't have asked for a better cardinal. How does the whole ceremony thing go, though? Well, it's not a ceremony per se. It's called a consistory. It's a formal meeting where the Pope promotes cardinals in front of the College of Cardinals. We get rings and everything. These meetings are usually private, but the Pope has opened it up to the public. He's really trying to be transparent. What does a cardinal do, I asked. Well, a cardinal is a boring job for the most part. We just make sure the house is in order, and we somewhat advise the Pope if he needs it. I guess the cool thing about being a cardinal is we get to elect the Pope. That's pretty powerful, Thomas. So when this Pope croaks, you'll be given the power to pick another one, huh? Oh, Red. Thomas couldn't help but laugh. But seriously, Thomas, I really am proud of you. I can't wait to see you get that ring. I'm sure your mother would be very proud. I know mine would. Thanks, Red. There is one thing that has always concerned me about the church, though. What's that, Red? Well, why is it that the Pope never addressed the whole molestation thing? Thomas looked at me with a blank stare. Well, Red, that was a very tragic thing, but I think the Pope handled it the best way he could, which was in private. I thought this Pope was so transparent, though. Well, no one can truly be transparent, Red. Is the service fully transparent? No, that would put the military in a very compromising position, and it's the same with the church. Can't argue with you there, Tom. So, how did he handle it? I was told he let most of the priests go. Wow, so they are just wandering around free, huh? Feeling irritated, Thomas just asserted himself and said, Look, Red, what's done is done. The church and the world has moved on from it, so let's do the same, okay? I knew it wasn't done, and he knew it too. Those innocent children will forever be scarred, so it's not done for them. Those so-called priests who were let go is probably still screwing little boys, so it's definitely not done for them. Thomas was just blinded by the faith he put in the church. He was so devoted more to the image of the church instead of the actual people in it. Our conversation quickly moved to God and forgiveness, but our words were like a tug of war. Every time he mentioned God, I mentioned Satan. Every time he talked about forgiveness, I talked about judgment. We were really going at it, and the conversation escalated all the way up until us screaming, but something happened after that. I heard someone coming down the stairs, and that kind of lowered our voices. A man appeared in pajamas and said, "Hello there. Babe, I didn't know we had company." I looked stunned. Thomas's eyes shied away from me, but then worked up the courage to say, Red, this is Hector, my partner." "Partner? Oh, you are a couple?" "Yes," he said bluntly. So many thoughts circled my mind. I didn't know what to say. I knew the Catholic Church doesn't condone this, at least in the public, and with his promotion in the church, why would he be so bold to reveal this? But even more than that, I never thought Thomas was the slightest of gay. The idea never crossed my mind, but people do change after adolescence, or at least evolve into who they are comfortable being. I didn't want to ask him how or why, for that was too much for the moment, so I just introduced myself. "Hi, I'm Red, an old friend of Thomas." "Oh, yes, Thomas told me you were coming. We weren't expecting you until the evening, though." "I invited him over for tea since he got in town early," Thomas replied. "Oh, no worries. Excuse my appearance. Continue on." "I'm Hector, by the way." Hector sat down with us and we continued to chat. There was obviously a huge elephant in the room, and filling this, Hector asserted, "I know what you're thinking, Red. A bunch of damn hypocrites, huh?" "Not at all," I said. Hector stated, "I've never been the religious type. That's Thomas's thing. He and I met at a nightclub a few years ago and 20 miles out of the town. He presented himself to be so conservative and reserved, no one paid any attention to him, but I found him irresistible. I approached him and we instantly hit it off. He wasn't shy about his faith, too. He told me he was Catholic, and I enjoyed listening to his talks about God. I was an atheist before we met, but after a few rumbles with this guy, I guess you can say I graduated to an agnostic. I really don't know what the hell is out there, but whatever it is, it has brought me and Thomas together, so that's enough to have some faith in God, I guess. Thomas is a good man. What we have is truly special, Red. I tend to stay to myself and let him do his work with the church, but I know he's not ashamed of me, nor is he ashamed of himself. He and I are just caught in an age-old tradition that is not ready to accept what we have. And for the sake of our love, I just deal with it. After all, that's what love is all about, right, Brett? Loving despite the barriers. I listened with complete intensity as Hector defended his relationship, and all Thomas could do was just sip his tea in silence. "Will you be attending the conservatory?" I asked. "Yes, I'll be there. I'll be cheering on my baby as the Pope puts that ring on his finger. Kinda think of it, this is as close as we'll get to a wedding," Hector said with humor. "When he puts that ring on his finger, I will imagine as if he's putting it on me. The Pope's function is to be the bridge to God, so Thomas's ring will be a bridge to the ring that I wish to put on him. The devotion that will be placed on him will be the same devotion I have chosen to give to him." "You don't find it frustrating to be living a secret life?" I asked with curiosity. "I don't see it as a secret life. I see it as a sacred life. You ever notice the most sacred things aren't done in public? When people make love, it's done in private. Our relationship is like that. It's not a show. No one needs to see our love. They just need to see Thomas's love and the work he does for the people." "I see. That's a respectable way of looking at it, I guess." Seeing Thomas and Hector defend their relationship made me see why Thomas brushed off the whole molestation scandal. I guess to him, who is he to put someone on blast? Secrets seemed to be the order in the Vatican. This all was heavily overwhelming to hear in one setting, but before I could say my piece, Radiat woke up from her nap. "Is that a baby crying?" Hector asked in confusion. "Yeah, it's my daughter." In excitement, Hector rushed to the living room. I assumed he was a lover of children. "Oh, look at this angel. She is so precious. What's her name?" "Radiat." "That's an interesting name." "Yeah, her mother named her. It's Ethiopian for God's help." "Well, that's a powerful name she has there." Hector picked her up and said, "I just love children. They truly are a blessing. To be able to see a seed you raise blossom into a blessed human being, you just can't ask for more. I always wanted children, Red." Thomas replied, "Yeah, she's really lovely, Red. It's such a shame men of the cloth can't have children. Maybe that will change one day. Maybe if we get a new pope. A lot of the people adore Thomas. He's very popular among the other clergy. I'm pretty sure if anything were to happen to this pope, the church would easily elect Thomas as his successor. To be honest, I never really cared for this pope, especially when he was caught playing with those little boys." "Hector," Thomas said in alarm. "What?" "Oh, please, why keep it a secret? Everyone in the clergy knows about it." Thomas looked deeply embarrassed. All this talk about God and the man he believes to be the bridge of Christ is taking children's innocence? "Oh, honey, I know your loyalty is to the church, but wrong is wrong. That man is not Christ's representative on earth. He is Satan's, and you know it. That's why he didn't do anything about those priests, because he was doing it too. I know you want to turn a blind eye to this for the sake of the church's survival, but something must be done about this." Feeling defeated, Thomas simply said, "God will take care of it, honey." See, Red, I am proud that Thomas is elevating in his career with the church, but I've been battling it ever since he got this promotion. I don't know if I truly should go. I know this moment is bigger than the Pope, but how could I sit there and pretend this man isn't a devil? I was deeply disgusted with this revelation. I started to see Thomas in a different light. I know deep down he is a good man, but this is just unacceptable. How could he tolerate innocent children being violated? His nonchalantness about such a severe situation should show him that this is not right. This showed me how too much power corrupts the soul. It showed me how the soul is manipulated to put its trust and faith in a corrupted man running the faith. Somehow, Thomas developed this toxic loyalty to this man. He may think ignoring it is preventing the church from imploding, but the church has already imploded. Whenever the head of over 1 billion lives is deceiving the world, the church has already fallen, so whether he tries to hide it or not, it doesn't do any good anyway. I knew Thomas was no longer the man with the character I knew him to be. Because of this, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. "What time is the consultory again tomorrow?" I asked. 9 a.m. "Okay. Hey, you think you can show me around the Vatican before the big day tomorrow?" "Of course, but wait. It's a little cold out. I don't think Radiat will be okay going out. She might get sick." Hector quickly responded, "You two go ahead, I'll watch her." "Is that okay with you, Red?" "That's fine with me." Thomas and I left for a few hours. I have to admit, this city is very beautiful. The buildings erected with a history hidden in shame, though. This too was a city built off the backs of free labor. As I walked the streets, my mind couldn't help but go back to Ethiopia. What I saw here is what I hoped to see there. However, instead of a city built off stolen resources and free labor, I anticipate a city built off karma. While the secrets of this city works to bring it down, the secret going on in Ethiopia will help bring it up. Thomas informed me that the Pope was at the Apostolic Palace preparing for tomorrow. "Is it possible to visit the palace, Thomas?" I asked. "I don't think so, Red. It's pretty locked down right now." "I see. Well, maybe next time." I told him maybe next time, but I, of course, had other plans. After the tour through the Vatican, we went back to his place. It was nighttime by then. Hector had fed Radiat and they both were asleep, so Thomas decided to do the same. When I felt Thomas was asleep, I grabbed my fanny pack and quietly made my way downstairs. I had asked Thomas for a tour because I needed to know where the Pope's palace was. I walked through the city in the night with these religious figures illuminated all around me. I saw countless statues of saints and carvings of Jesus. It made me feel as if I were surrounded by angels. However, these statues were exactly what they were, just statues. Non-moving, non-productive pieces of rock that had no substance. Kind of similar to the figurehead who runs this city. This is why I had to do what I had to do. Being in the agency, we are taught how to break into buildings with ease. We know how to break glass without even making a sound. Yeah, that's how good we are. I wore all black, so this made it easier to maneuver in the night. As I stalked the building from a distance, I noticed 4 guards stationed to the north of the building, but luckily, the backside was unattended. I crept my way to this window and quickly examined it for an opening. I reached in my fanny pack to get a special latch breaker, and I managed to break the latch without alarming anyone. The guard was on the other side with his back turned, so I guess he figured if anyone tried to get in through that window, he would be able to hear it, but he didn't. Agents are like mice that can eat a candy out of a wrapper without even opening it. That's truly how good we are trained. I entered in the part of the palace that seemed to be the basement. It was pitch black, but I had night vision goggles in my fanny pack, so I was able to navigate my scene. I walked up these stairs, which led me to a door. I checked for breathing or the slightest movement on the other side of the door, and feeling it was safe, I opened it. I guess the palace wasn't as locked down as Thomas thought. From there, I found myself in a huge hallway. There were signs in Italian which did me no good, so I couldn't navigate through those. I just decided to rely on my good old common sense. I quietly walked through the halls of the palace. I wandered for a good 15 minutes until I saw a sign that said, Stanza di Papa. I didn't know what the first 2 words meant, but I knew Papa meant Pope, so I followed the sign upstairs. Knowing that security was obviously nearby, I climbed up through this huge vent and searched my way to his room. The crawl took me about 10 minutes. I peeped through the 2 vents to see signs of the Pope, and eventually I found him. There he was, disrobing, getting ready for bed. To my surprise, he had no one aiding him. I waited for signs of another voice in the room, but he was alone. I knew they were nearby though, so I still proceeded with caution. As he laid down to go to sleep, that was my moment to move. I patiently opened the vent and quietly jumped on a dresser nearby. I had taken my shoes and socks off to dilute further noise. A wall was blocking me from the bed, so I hopped on the floor. I got on all 4s and crawled toward the bed. My crawl felt like that snake that had snuck up on Jesus in the garden before the Romans arrested him. However, I was returning what was owed to this man. I wasn't a snake on the prowl to bite a holy man. I was the snake coming to bite the head snake. This was the karma that was just due. When I reached his bed, I slowly stood up. There he was, sleeping so peacefully. I felt a rush of disgust seeing this man sleep in peace like that when he has broken the peace of so many children. I anxiously lunged and grabbed the Pope by the neck. I had him in a fierce choke. He immediately woke up in confusion and shock, but I quickly responded, "Say anything and you die." I told him to get up so we can talk. As I sat on his bed, he got up shivering like it was 0 degrees in the room. So much for a man who preaches one should only have fear for God. I immediately grabbed his neck and forced him down on the ground. While holding him in a chokehold, I spoke. I've been waiting to talk to you. I've heard what you've been doing to these young boys in your church. Before you even try to speak, I want you to hear me out. I don't know if you care or not, but the people who follow you put their entire faith in you. They believe you to be the bridge between them and Christ. Yet here you are, raping their children. Would Christ do that to his children? Seriously, would he? I've already had my issues with religion. I know the truth behind it all. I know why this church was built, and I know the black Madonna you pray to every morning while the rest of the world prays to a white Jesus. I know the hand this church has had in slavery. I know the hand you have in sucking the blood out of all these so-called third world nations. I know what this institution really is about, but that's not even my problem with you right now. I know why this church wants to cover up such a scandal, because it will taint the image of the church, right? But what good is the painting if the painter behind it doesn't match the painting? What good is it, Mr. Pope? You get up every morning to pray to a God that the oppressed pray to. They are praying to eliminate the same confusion that you are causing. I wonder what their prayers are right now. I wonder what your children's prayers are right now. Do you think they are praying to be rescued from you? Whose prayers should God answer, huh? I guess I'll be the answer to their prayers. Adrenaline was running through my entire body, and my arms laid at the mercy, the head of a power that is over 1 billion lives. Thinking about those innocent children just really got my adrenaline going even more. And I just did it. In a sudden move, I snapped his neck. His head rested in my arms as I slowly got up. What I did was too quick, though. He had a quick death, but these children will be forced to endure a long scar. I should have cut off his genitals and fed it to his behind, but that would have been too messy. I would have been caught for sure. After my deed, I hopped back in the vent and worked my way down to the basement to get the hell out of there. I climbed out of the basement window and glided into the night unseen. It was near midnight when I returned to Thomas's house. Even though I had done this before, it just felt so strange. But it was just my intention to pretend that nothing happened. Eventually the word would get out, but I would have to put on my agency face and just do what I normally do. That's how we do in the agency. You know, it never ceases to amaze me what we take in the agency. The things we see as normal is never really normal. This is what I pondered on after this mission, as I laid in the bed. We had to get up early for conservatory, but I couldn't sleep. I was contemplating the world I brought a new life into. I was wondering what kind of future Radiat would have in an unstable world like this. I knew Radiat would never have a normal life with me, and this made me distressed. I literally stayed up with my eyes fixed on the ceiling. For hours, I just laid there until it was time to get up. When 7 o'clock struck, I got up to check on Radiat. She was awoke in a fit, so I went downstairs and warmed up some almond milk. Hector and Thomas were getting dressed for the big event. They had no idea about what I had done. That is, until the phone rang. Who on earth would be calling so early? Hector said in irritation. It's probably the clergy, babe, Thomas said anxiously. He answered the phone as I eavesdropped through the other room. What? How? Are you sure? Thomas gasped with alarm. Okay, I'm on my way. Thomas hung up the phone, and with a sudden sense of grief, he said with despair, The Pope is dead. The gasp reminded me of Adonik on the train. It carried the same weight of responsibility Adonik had for her people that Thomas now must face with the church. Do they know how? Hector said with intrigue. They think he went in his sleep, Thomas said. I have to go. I'll keep you posted, okay? Thomas kissed Hector and rushed out the door. Me and Hector stayed in silence for a while. Hector just paced by the phone waiting for Thomas to call with an update, and I just held Radiat on the couch. Eventually, Hector made his way to the living room and said, I hate to say it, but that little devil deserved to die. Maybe God got tired of him playing with the people. Yeah, I can only imagine what Thomas is going through right now, though, I said. Before Hector could even sit down, the phone rang. He rushed into the next door to quickly answer. Hey, we'll be having an emergency conclave. I don't know how long I'll be, but I'll call you when I can, okay? Oh, okay, babe. Take care. Hector just stood there for a moment in silence, and then he said, I've never heard of an emergency conclave. This must be serious. Or scandalous. You never know with them, I said sarcastically. I stayed at their place for a few days to see what would happen, but Thomas never returned. The whole clergy was stuck in a meeting, I guess, trying to figure out the next step. I, of course, was waiting for some breaking news to be plattered over the television, but nothing of the sort occurred. I knew they were trying to cover something up. Maybe they knew the Pope was killed, but because they didn't know how or what did it, they were working on how they would frame it to the world. This is when I had lost all respect for Thomas. Anyone that would be this condoning of secrecy and scandal has to be a devil to even the most satanic person. And yes, he is a good man to me, but I had to come to this conclusion. Even if he's an angel to me, he is a devil to those who were abused by this institution. This is why I'm glad I did what I did. Yes, I forgot to tell you that before I left the Pope's palace, I noticed the room the consistory was going to be in. Before I dashed out for a quick getaway, I peeked in to see what it looked like. When I got in, I noticed a display in the front of the room that had a jug of wine laid out. I figured this was for communion purposes, so I reached into my fanny pack and poured a special potion into the wine. The potion was actually a poison used for assassinations. It's a poison that doesn't kill you instantaneously, though. It depends on the person's bloodstream. Some people die a day after, some die a week after. It's all to cover the tracks of the assassin and allow him time to get away before a search is made. I was gonna use this on the Pope, but seeing him sleep so peacefully just irritated me to the point of choking him. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I was that irritated because it gave me this to finish the job on the rest of these devils. I will admit I was concerned that Thomas would be caught in the crossfire, but now I don't care. He is what you call a slick devil, one that seems nice and thoughtful, but whose priority is to the scandals of Satan. So whenever they drink the wine, eventually the clergy will be dropping like flies. Not only will the head of the church be gone, but the arms and the legs will be gone as well. This will leave the body of the church to fend for themselves. As the power in the Vatican falls, hopefully this bind that it has over the voiceless will fall too. I'm happy these children will no longer have to endure the torture of being abused like that, but most importantly, the secret ties this place has with the oppression of so-called third world countries will now discontinue. The Vatican is known for its influence over many first world nations. We have seen the implosions of international power structures go down, and because the Vatican is falling too, this is really going to do something to the world. Because of this, I am headed back to the States. I'll be going to New York to make a little visit to the stock market. I hate to leave Hector. He seems like such a good man. He was the only one who truly was disgusted by the Pope's actions. Because Thomas will soon be dead, I know he will be lonely, so I decided to leave him a comforter. I left him Radiat. I know this sounds crazy, but I just felt it was the right thing to do. At least she will grow up in a home and not travel the world in instability. Hector doesn't know I slid out of the house and left her, but he will soon find out. I didn't just leave without saying goodbye, though. I left a letter next to Radiat. I did the best I could with her, but I have to go. If it means anything, I know she'll understand one day. This is what the letter read. Dear God, you have given me your help to the place where human civilization lays. Now I am placing your help in the hands of a man that needs it the most. He has a kind of love that can raise such a child. I pray Hector does the right thing in keeping her to be that blessing who blossoms the seed into a blessed human being, as we spoke. I thank you for giving her life, and I thank Hector for giving me hope. When Hector reads this, he may feel shocked or feel as if he has been forced into a position that he can't choose, but In my heart, I know he will do the right thing. I've never put all my faith in one man like Thomas has done with the Pope, but I am willing to do it this time. I guess you can say I'm having faith. I have to go now, but I'll be talking to you soon. Until then, your servant Red, signing out.